it happened again. Another crazy weekend of college football just happened. I don't even know what to say. I probably won't even survive this episode because of how many improbable wins happened this weekend. Anyways, guys, welcome back to Grizzly Football. We got Week 6 college football reactions and reaction to the Week 7 AP poll that came out yesterday. Oh boy, we have a ton of games to talk about. Oh, this was crazy. Especially in college football. 7 ranked teams lost this week. It would have been 8 had it not been for that college game day. We're going to talk all about it in this episode. But if you haven't already, make sure you hit the red subscribe button, hit the like, and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. Anyways, let's get straight to it. Let's go! Kicking things off, we have college game day in Berkeley, where Miami, ranked number 8 in the country, had to come all the way back from 25 down against the Cal Golden Bears, 39-38. Cal was up 35-10 in the third quarter, and they blew that lead. Cal, you had your moment. You had your chance, and you blew it. I'm not saying the quarterbacks didn't even do that bad. I mean, Cam Ward had a heck of a game with 35 of 53 for 437 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Same touchdown interception ratio for Mendoza. He had 11 of 22 for 285 yards. I'm not saying the quarterbacks were bad. I mean, they were actually doing pretty nicely. Rushing game, of course, was a much different story. I mean, Miami had Mark Fletcher run for a touchdown and have 7.4 yards a carry. Daniel Martinez had 42 rushing yards and a touchdown. Cam Ward even added a rushing touchdown to his resume. And then leading the receiving was Xavier Restrepo, who out 7 catches, 163 yards. Damn. 9 catches, 83 yards and a touchdown for Horton. Jacoby George and Damian Martinez having 50 yards, and the other touchdown was by Elijah Arroyo. And as for Cal's game, 2 touchdowns on the game, nobody close to 50 yards. 3 players had 20 rushing yards, including the quarterback. But Jaden Ott had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown with 3 catches for 75 yards in this game. Chandler Rogers even had a rushing touchdown. The leading receiving was Jack Andrews with 3 catches, 78 yards and a touchdown. We had Javian Thomas with a 56-yard catch, and Tron Grizzly with a 51-yard reception. Defensively for Miami, Wesley Besaint had a pretty solid game. He had a tackle for loss, 4 solo tackles. Michelle Powell had a decent game. There were 2 sacks by the Miami defense. Simeon Barrow had a solid game, 2 tackles for loss, including 1 for a sack. Deani Hill and Francisco Mauigoa had a tackle for loss. And Mauigoa even had an interception in this game. Ruben Payne had a solid game. Miami's defense did pretty solid. They were actually pretty solid. Cal's defense? Yikes. We had Cade Oluwave have a solid game. Same with Marcus Harris with the tackle for loss. They both had double-digit tackles. There were 3 sacks in this game for the Cal defense. Nate Burrell and Xavier Carlton had sacks. There was an interception for a touchdown by Noel Williams. Cal's defense played the best it could have been. It was just they crumbled in the second half. Right, Jeff Miami? You're still undefeated somehow. Up next, we had the big noon kickoff game between 2 Big Ten teams, UCLA and number 7 Penn State, with Penn State coming out on top 27-11. This score could have been a lot worse, but no, I think Penn State kind of eased off on the gas pedal, and they ended up winning this one by 16 over UCLA. Man, UCLA's 1-4? Damn. Quarterbacks in this game did not turn the ball over one time. None of these teams had a turnover. It was just clean offensive football. Justin Martin was very accurate, 22-30 for 167 yards and a touchdown. Drew Aller did enough to win, 17-24 for 237 and a touchdown. Yardage-wise, this game was pretty even. Obviously, 2 players with 38 rushing yards, Keegan Jones and Jalen Berger. And the only touchdown in the game was Logan Loya for UCLA with 6 catches for 57 yards and a touchdown. And TJ Harden had 5 catches for 59. And as for Penn State, we had Katrin Allen have 78 rushing yards and a touchdown. Drew Aller even added a rushing touchdown. with Tyler Warren getting the only receiving touchdown in the game, and the leader receiving was Liam Clifford with 3 catches, 107 yards. Have yourself a day, brother. Defensively for UCLA, Carson Schweisinger and Femi Oladejo had some solid games with double-digit tackles. Oladejo even had a sack in this game, the only one of the game, for 2 tackles for loss. Cam Medrano had a tackle for loss, and 2 pass deflections for Medrano as well. Solid game for UCLA's defense, just not good enough to stop Penn State's rushing attack, apparently. And as for Penn State's defense, they had 2 sacks in this game. There was a forced fumble by Jalen Reed. Danny Dennis-Sutton had 2 pass defenses, and Jalen Kemper had 1. And Jalen Reed even had a sack in this game, with solid games from Tony Rojas and A.J. Harris as well. Defense did their job, offense did their job, and they came out with a win. Penn State is also undefeated. Congratulations, Nittany Lions. Maybe you might beat Ohio State? Yeah, maybe not. Up next, we have the only top 25 team bout in this entire week of football. Crazy. With Texas A&M ranked 25th in the country, absolutely decimating number 9 Missouri in Kyle Field, 41-10. Missouri Tigers confirmed frauds? Confirmed one-year wonders? I mean, look at the total yardage. This was just complete overmatch in the rushing game. What the hell happened? I mean, Brady Cook, my goodness, 13 of 31. He did throw a touchdown, but only under 200 yards. Man, he had a rough one in this game. Carter Weigman, he didn't throw a touchdown, but he was very safe with the football. 18 of 22 for 276. Great job, dude. You did enough to give your team a 31-point win. Damn. Missouri's rushing game was just non-existent. The only players who had significant stats on the receiving game were Luther Burden with 7 catches for 82 yards and Theo Weiss, who had the only touchdown in the game for Missouri. 2 catches, 72 yards in the score. And as for Texas A&M, oh my gosh, look at this. Amari Daniels had 9 carries for 34 yards, but Le'Veon Moss had 11.5 yards a carry, 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. Amari Daniels had 2 touchdowns on the ground also. And the receiver leaders were Terry Bussey with 3 catches, 76, Noah Thomas with 3 for 65, and Jade Walker with 2 catches for 55 yards. This said more about the rushing attack for Texas A&M. Jeez, why did you have to do Missouri like that, A&M? I know Missouri only had 1 sack in the game by Zion Young, but despite good games of Jaden Norwood and Corey Flagg and Trevez Johnson and Toriano Pride, they just could not stop the run game at all. Texas A&M just had brick walls for that entire offensive line. And Texas A&M had, I'm trying to count all this, 6 sacks in this game. 6 of them. Dalton Brooks had a heck of a game. Then look at the pass defenses. Will Lee 2. BJ Mays and Albert Regis 1. Man, Texas A&M dominated this game. Man, congratulations, Texas A&M. You are back in the SEC's island of relevancy. And Missouri, you guys are on your way out immediately. Kicking off the upset section, we have a bundle of them this week. First up, we're going to go over this one by one. We're going to take a look at the Friday game between number 25 UNLV and Syracuse. This game went to overtime with Syracuse getting the dub 44-41. UNLV's undefeated run comes to an end, but they had a good ride. They really did. And Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, they're competitive. Let me just say, they are competitive. Watch out for those Rebels. Trust me, I would know. We played in the Mountain West against them. Yeah, we used to be in the Mountain West. You didn't know BYU used to be in the Mountain West. For those of you who know, if you know, you know. Both of these quarterbacks absolutely did amazing. Kyle McCord threw 63 times. What the hell? 40 of 63 for 355 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. With Haji Malik Williams absolutely dicing up the Syracuse defense, 21-25 for 227, 3 touchdowns and a pick as well. Both quarterbacks did great. Syracuse's rushing game was led out by LaQuint Allen, who had 19 carries, 71 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns, including the game winner in overtime. Yassine Willis had 8 carries for 62 yards and a score as well, and the 3 touchdowns were by Jackson Minks with 8 catches for 67 yards. By the way, Aronde Gadsden 10 catches for 142 yards, and Trevor Payne with 8 catches for 67, and LaQuint Allen also having 2 receiving touchdowns with 9 catches for 58 yards. Crazy stuff. And as for UNLV's rushing offense, they didn't do that by themselves. Hajj Malik Williams even had himself a rushing touchdown, and Jaden Thomas had 6 carries for 64 yards. And the receiver was led by Ricky White. No surprise there. He had 10 catches, 135 yards, and a score casually. Kaleo Balunge, I hope I did not butcher that. I think I just butchered that. 2 catches, 20 yards, and a score. And Casey Kane with 2 catches, 15 yards, and a score. Offensively, both of these teams played amazingly. The defenses did not show up. At least until overtime when Syracuse held UNLV to a field goal. As for Syracuse's defense, very solid games from Jalen Bellamy, Justin Barron, Elijah Clark, and Fadil Diggs. There was also interception by Jarian Chestnut in this game. 2 sacks for Diggs as well. He was the only guy who had sacks. Defense did its job when it mattered most in the overtime. And as for UNLV's defense, oh boy, what do we have here? We have 4 players with double-digit total tackles. Jalen Kettleman, Jackson Woodard, who had a pick, Jet Elad, and Monty Powell had double-digit tackles. No sacks in this game on common accord. There were also 7 pass defenses in this entire game. UNLV's defense was cooking, and then they allowed the game-winning touchdown, and it was just over. Don't worry, UNLV, you're gonna get your comeuppance in a couple weeks from now. You're gonna still be contenders in the Mountain West. Don't forget that. You still have to compete with Boise State of all teams, but Boise State's doing good, especially with one particular running back. I will talk about that a little bit later. But anyways, UNLV, keep your heads up. You still have a lot of football to be played. But this was a heartbreaker, I will say that. Syracuse, well done. UNLV, you still got a lot of football to play, but this was definitely a big slap in the face. Up next, we have the SMU Mustangs traveling to Louisville to take down the number 22 Louisville Cardinals 34-27. I gotta say, I'm very proud of SMU. We were their only loss of the season, and SMU, they are still running high as they always have been. Yardage-wise, these two teams were just even across the board. Kevin Jennings was very accurate with the football with 300 yards, 21-27. Preston Stone even threw a 10-yard touchdown. And then Tyler Shaw had 22 of 35, but for 329 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. All of these quarterbacks actually did nice. Both teams had some good rushers. Kevin Jennings was the quarterback, of course. He had 113 yards on 11.3 yards a carry and a score. Roger Daniels and LJ Johnson had the other rushing touchdowns. And the receiving was highlighted by RJ Maryland with 6 catches for 83 yards. Keyshawn Smith even had a score in this game. But Louisville didn't do that bad either. Isaac Brown had 117 yards. He had more yards per carry than Kevin Jennings did, but they were still looking very nicely. Donald Chaney even had a rushing touchdown, and the receiver was led out by Ja'Cory Brooks with 3 catches, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Those are some Randy Moss numbers, especially college. Amari Huggins-Bruce even had 5 catches for 82 yards. Dang. Man, Louisville and SMU were in a dogfight. SMU's defense got to the quarterback 3 times. We had Kobe Wilson, Isaiah Nwokobia, Jonathan McGill, I hope I didn't botcher that second name, but Nwokobia had a pick in this game. There was also 2 passes defensed. SMU had the only turnover game, and I think it cost Louisville. Unfortunately for Louisville's defense, they didn't get to the quarterback a single time, but good games from Tayan Holloway, Stanquan Clark, and MJ Griffin. they had some very solid games, and even TJ Quinn, Antonio Watts, and D'Angelo Hutchinson with tackling. But it just wasn't enough. SMU was able to get the big plays at the end, and they end up winning this game. Louisville, you'll get your chance again, but SMU, well done. Give it up for the Gadsden Commodores. What an absolute upset. Absolutely unbelievable. And this is what you came to the video for. Number 1 Alabama gets stunned. Absolutely stunned. On the road against unranked Vanderbilt. 40-35. Clap it up for Vandy. Clark Lee, what happened to you? What got you possessed for this game? But I'm going to address the elephant in the room. This is not exactly the beginning of the downfall. Here's the problem. These are still Saban's players that Caleb DeBauer is coaching. In like a couple years, we will start to see the flaws in Caleb DeBauer in his ability to recruit. Like, he's not going to be terrible, but he won't be as effective as recruiting and in the transfer portal as people say he will. It will take him a couple years for Alabama to finally decline. But right now, Alabama is still looking like a playoff team right now, despite this absolute embarrassment in Nashville. Okay, before I get to the quarterback stats, let me bring up a stat. Vanderbilt had the ball for 42 minutes of the game. 42 minutes. You know how hard that is to do against a team like Alabama? Really, really hard. But my God, Vanderbilt did it and they pulled off the improbable. You couldn't even point the finger at Jalen Milroe besides the pick 6 that he threw. 18-24 for 310 yards and his touchdown. Like, he actually played well. Like, he even added a rushing touchdown in this game. But Diego Pavia, absolute legend. He did it to Auburn at New Mexico State last year, and now he's done it with Vanderbilt against Alabama. 16-20 for 252 yards and 2 touchdowns. Man, what a game for him. Defense just decided not to show up, but Alabama, where was your defense this entire game? By the way, Jalen Milroe, like I said, he added a rushing touchdown. Jam Miller had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Ryan Williams even had 2 touchdowns in this game, 1 on the ground and 1 through the air. By the way, Ryan Williams had the only receiving touchdown in the game. Jeremy Bernard even had 3 catches for 70, and CJ Dipper had 2 catches for 66 yards. Alabama's going to get bailed out by Ryan Williams, but it's going to take a while before people realize Caleb DeBauer is not as good as the coach as people say. And as for Vandy's offense, Cedric Alexander had himself a game with 2 rushing touchdowns on 64 yards. 3 yards to carry. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't great, but he got it done. He punched it in twice. And then Junior Sherrill had 2 catches, 45 yards in the score. Eli Stowers had 6 catches for 113 yards in this game. And Cameron Johnson even had the other receiving touchdown in this game. Man. Oh yeah, and another thing. Alabama's defense couldn't get to Diego 1 time in this game. There were 2 passes defense by Damani Jackson and Xavier Brown. And then there was also Jahad Campbell, Deontay Lawson, and Malachi Moore with double-digit tackles. We also had Keon Sapp had a very solid game. Man, like, Bama's defense can tackle, but man, they could not stop Vanderbilt for anything. They couldn't get him off the field. As for Vanderbilt's defense, they took down Jalen Milroe twice. And we had Brian Longwell, Langston Patterson having solid games, but then Ranton Fontenette had a pick 6 in this game. Forced fumble by Miles Capers and Yulandon Altera. I hope I didn't butcher that name. I think I did, but he had a fumble recovery in this game. And Ricky Wright had the other pass defense. Man, Vanderbilt came into this game as a 23.5 point underdog, maybe 22.5, I'm not sure, but right around that range. And they stunned Alabama at home. Man, deservedly so. I think I made a short about this game and it blew up. Like, man, this game was crazy. If Vanderbilt gets their first win against Alabama in 40 years, first win against the AP top 5 opponent and AP number 1 opponent in program history. Man, things are looking up for the Commodores, baby. Anchor down. More upsets? Oh yeah. Top 10 Michigan loses to Washington 27-17. I didn't watch this game, but man, Washington had Michigan's number all game. And the flaws are starting to be shown right now that Michigan doesn't have some of their best players and even their head coach. Like, Michigan has some good defensive players, but the offense is shaky right now. Quarterback controversy is still underway. Like, Jack Tuttle had more snaps than Alex Zorgine. Like, are you kidding me? Like, these two quarterbacks combined at 113 yards and a touchdown and a pick. Like, come on, man. And then Will Rogers had a heck of a game this time with 21 of 31, 271 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Crazy stuff. Donovan Edwards had himself a game with 95 yards rushing and a touchdown, 6.8 yards a carry. And receiving was led by Colston Loveland, who had 6 catches, 33 yards, and a score. As for Washington, their best rusher was Jonah Coleman, who had 18 carries, 80 yards, and a score. And receiving was led by Denzel Boston with 5 catches, 80 yards, and a score. Keelan Latu with 7 catches for 65. And Giles Jackson with 4 catches, 78 yards, and a score. Michigan's defense wasn't all that bad. Like, they got to this quarterback 4 times. Ernest Hausman had a heck of a game. Jair Hill had a solid game. TJ Guy, Josiah Stewart. Like, Hausman even had a pick. Hill had a pass defense, and so did Mason Graham. Like, defense played well, just the offense struggled to move the ball. And as for Washington's defense, no real impressive games too much. There was 1 sack in this game by Isaiah Ward. I mean, at least that's something. But Voit Tanufi had a forced fumble. Logan Sacapolo had a recovery. There was Cameron. I'm not going to say his last name. I know I'm going to butcher it. He had himself an interception. There were 4 passes defense in this game. Like, Washington was able to take advantage of the struggles on the quarterback, and they were able to run away with this game. Like, clearly they did. Got another one for you. Number 11 USC upset by the Minnesota Golden Gophers 24-17. I also did not watch this game, but very impressive win from Minnesota. They were 2-3 coming in this game. USC, what the heck are y'all doing? Miller Moss had one of his worst games this season with 200 yards on 23 of 38 for a touchdown and 2 picks, and he even had a fumble in this game. Minnesota's quarterback Max Brosmer, like, he didn't do terribly. He actually was playing safe football as well with 15 and 19 for 169 yards. No touchdowns, of course, but he was playing safe football. That's what you really want in a quarterback, that you don't know what he's going to do. As for USC's entire offensive rushing and receiving, we had Jaquavius Marks with 134 yards, 6.7 a carry, and a score. And the only touchdown in the game was by Deuce Robinson with 4 catches, 39 yards, and a score. And I'm guessing that Minnesota's offense... Oh, wait a minute. I just now see that. Max Brosmer had 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. Wow. And then Darius Taylor had 144 yards, 5.8 a carry. Receiving was led by Darius Taylor. Like, he was their entire yardage. Like, he had 200 yards on this game. 5 catches for 56, and then 144 on the ground. Man, Brosmer gets the touchdowns, and Taylor gets the yards. Apparently, according to this game. I will say, USC's defense wasn't terrible. I mean, Kamari Ramsey had a forced fumble recovery by Clifton, 2 guys with double-digit tackles, Easton Mascarenas and Mason Cobb, Akili Arnold with a solid game as well. Like, they had some defensive players make some plays, but they just could not stop Taylor for anything, and the Brosmer were able to get the scores. The defense played amazing in this game. Justin Wally, 4 passes defensed. And then, of course, there was a sack by Joyner, who had 2 passes defensed. Forced fumble by Corey Parrish. And also a fumble recovery by Ethan Robinson. Parrish even had a pick along with Devin Williams. Jelonte McMillan had another solid game. So did Robinson and Cody Littenberg. Man, Minnesota's defense came to play. And the quarterback was able to run for the scores, and they were able to upset number 11. Great win, Gophers. And the final game we're going to talk about is Tennessee Volunteers, ranked number 4 in the nation, getting upset in Fayetteville against the Arkansas Razorbacks 19-14. You cannot be a top 10 team, let alone a top 5 team, and drop 14 points on an unranked opponent. Like, that cannot happen. As far as touchdowns goes, very silent for the passing game. Iyama Liava had one of his worst games of the season, 16-28 for 156 yards, with Talon Green had 19-27 for 266 in this game. Man. Oh yeah, and Malachi Singleton had some snaps at quarterback because why not? But man, Dylan Sampson of Tennessee balled out this game. 6.4 yards to carry, 140 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And receiving was highlighted by, well, Squirrel White. What a name. 7 catches, 38 yards. And with Arkansas, we had Jaquindon Jackson getting himself a touchdown. Very disappointing, kind of, yardage-wise, but he did a score. Malachi Singleton had a rushing touchdown. And receiving was highlighted by Andrew Armstrong with 9 catches, 132 yards. And Isaiah Sategna with 5 catches and 72 yards. Man. This was just a rushing bonanza won by Arkansas. As far as Tennessee's defense goes, 2 players with double-digit tackles, Keenan Peely, Will Brooks, James Pierce had a solid game, so did Arian Carter. There were 2 sacks in this game. James Pierce had one of them. 2 passes defense by Carter and Pierce, forced fumble by Brooks. But yeah, defense didn't do enough apparently. Like, both defenses played well, but Arkansas was just a little bit better. And as for Arkansas, we had Danico Slaughter with a pass deflection. He had a solid game. So did Sori, TJ Metcalf, Larry Worth. There was also pass deflections by Jaheim Singletary and Jaden Johnson. Like I said, defenses played well. And oh yeah, by the way, we had 4 sacks from the Arkansas defense. Man, great job, Arkansas. Great win over number 4 and woo big soup. And to end this episode of Grizzly Talks Football, we are going to talk about the Week 7 AP poll, and let me tell you, it is ass. Top 2 teams I'm fine with. Texas and Ohio State deserve to be the top 2 teams, but why the hell did Oregon and Penn State jump Georgia? I know they're undefeated, but what have they done to deserve jumping over Georgia, whose only loss was to Alabama, who lost to Vandy? Miami being at 6 isn't terrible. I mean, I guess you could have put them below Bama, but that would call an outcry. But here's the thing. I hate the SEC bias in the AP poll. Bama's at 7 and Tennessee's at 8 is just honestly a funky joke. Tennessee drops 4 spots to put in at 14 points as a top 5 team. They don't even deserve top 10. Come on, AP poll, really? Ole Miss in the top 10, I'm fine with. Clemson back in the top 10 for the first time since 2021. No, 2022. That sounds about right. 2022. That was when they almost made the playoff if it wasn't for a guy named Spencer Rattler. Yeah, I'm fine with Clemson being in the top 10. Oh yeah, by the way, did I forget to mention there were 2 ties in this AP poll? This is the first one between Iowa State and Notre Dame. Iowa State is undefeated. They're actually the better team, in my personal opinion, because they took care of business against Baylor by 22 points. We won at Waco by only 6. So Iowa State has the better win right now over us, over Baylor. But here's my problem. Why doesn't LSU go to at least 11? Why does Notre Dame jump LSU? Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Sure, they beat Texas A&M. What? And then LSU's only loss was to USC? The only reason why LSU's behind Notre Dame is because USC fell out of the top 25. I'm not joking. USC fell 15 spots. They went from 11 to unranked. That's the only reason why I see LSU being behind Notre Dame. Obviously, you have us at 14 at BYU, Texas A&M at 15. I'm fine with those 2 teams. Here's what I don't understand, though. Texas A&M, of course, losing to Notre Dame, who's ahead of them. Utah losing to Arizona, yet Utah's ahead of Texas A&M? What? Utah's at 16, Boise State's at 17. But here's the reason. Ashton Jeanty is winning the Heisman. Come on. You got to give it to him. You got to give him the respect he deserves. Kansas State, Indiana, Oklahoma. This was the other tie for 18th. I don't get it. Like, this AP bowl was dog shit. Like, this poll all around was absolute bollocks. Indiana, of course, they are 6-0. Kansas State, Oklahoma have a loss on their record. Oklahoma lost to Tennessee, who now lost to Arkansas. Come on, man. Missouri dropped all the way down to 21 after a bad loss to an A&M team. Crazy stuff. Pittsburgh, first time in the rankings at 22. Illinois goes to 23, jumps up one spot. That's fine. Michigan being at 24 is a freaking joke. Like, Michigan's roster is not better than USC's. USC would beat Michigan if they played head-to-head.
USC actually lost to Michigan this season.
Michigan should not be in the rankings. SMU in 25 is crazy. Like, I'm so proud of SMU after we beat them in a very bad game. Like, SMU, man, congratulations. I hope you guys win the ACC. Hopefully contend for it. And, yeah, make our win over you look very nicely, respectively. Because you guys are actually a good team. Oh, dear God, I'm hoping we can beat Arizona a big noon kickoff, because that's the next game that we have in our schedule. A big noon kickoff against the Wildcats at home. Oh, yeah, and by the way, teams outside the rankings, Navy and Army are 5-0 each. Yeah, Navy and Army. That hasn't happened since 1945. Like, that is insane. If they both win next week, they better be at least considered for a top 25 bid. And, of course, this coming Saturday's college game day is between number 2 Ohio State and number 3 Oregon. Crazy game this is going to be. This is in Hudson Stadium as well, so Oregon does have the home advantage. Ooh, man, this is going to be a tough decision. This is going to be a great game. Obviously, the QB battle between Will Howard and Dylan Gabriel is going to receive a lot of hype, and for good reason. Like, both quarterbacks have been playing well. Not well enough to really catch up to Cam Ward and Ashton Genty company that's in the Heisman race right now, but they've been playing well to the point that their teams are both undefeated headed into this game. With that being said, about who I'm going to pick, it's going to be very tough for me to say, but I'm going to have to pick Ohio State for this game. Like, Ryan Day is still their coach. Like, Dan Lanning is Oregon's head coach, but Ohio State right now is looking very, very solid. Oregon had some shaky games early in the season, but I'm hoping they can at least make this game competitive, but I see Ohio State winning this on the road. Oh yeah, by the way, for the big noon kickoff game between Arizona and BYU, yeah, Arizona's going to own the state of Utah. I see Arizona coming on the road again against the Utah team that has a lot of hype at the Big 12. And absolutely crushing their dreams. I see Arizona winning. Anyways, that is going to do it for this episode of Grizzly Talks Football. If you've enjoyed the series so far, I will leave a link in the description for the whole entire playlist so you guys can watch it back, watch every single episode so you're all caught up with what's going on. And if you haven't already, if I haven't said it enough, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. Hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. By the way, guys, thank you so much for 50 subscribers on this channel. Like, man, I didn't think I would do it in 6 years, let alone a decade. Like, this has been going on for 8 years, this channel. And, man, we've had a rough time on this channel. Like, I haven't been uploading consistently, like, over the past couple years. And now I decided to do it now. Like, is it too late for me, or is this the beginning of a renaissance for me? But anyways, be sure to subscribe. Make sure let's get to 100. I want to get to 100 by the end of the year. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. See you later. Peace.